Hi everybody, welcome to the Pine River Library Story Time. Today's story time is going to be about donuts and sandwiches. Yum! National Sandwich Day is actually this week. That's why we picked this for our theme. Wednesday, November 3rd is National Sandwich Day. Do you have a favorite sandwich that you like? Mine would be a turkey sandwich with provolone cheese. If you can put it on a croissant bun, even better. How about PB&J? Do you like a PB&J sandwich? Peanut butter and jelly? That's what our first book is going to be about today. Peanut butter, jelly, bread. PB&J, hooray! Easy to make, yummy to eat. But where does the food come from? Do you know how we put together a PB&J sandwich? Well, it starts at the grocery store. Bread in the bread aisle, peanut butter stacked on the shelves, jars of jelly lined up in a row. Put it in a shopping cart and pay on the way out. Carry into the kitchen where sandwiches are made. PB&J, hooray! But where does the grocery store get the food? So we go to the grocery store, but where do they get it? Delivery trucks. Truck drivers pull up to the loading dock at the grocery store. Look at all that P&B to unload. Bread in the bread aisle, peanut butter stacked on the shelves, jars of jelly lined up in a row. Put it in a shopping cart and pay on the way out. So we go to the grocery store to get it. Grocery stores get it from delivery trucks. Carry into kitchens where sandwiches are made. PB&J, hooray! But where do the delivery trucks get the food? How does it get on their trucks? Bakeries and factories. Bread is baked in a bakery. Flour, yeast, eggs need rise and bake. Peanut butter is made in a peanut butter making factory. First they shell the peanuts and roast them and then grind them. Some are for crunch. Grind it more if you like it smooth. How do you like your peanut butter? Smooth or chunky? I like mine smooth. Jelly is made in a jelly making factory. Concord grapes fresh off the vine. Cook, strain, pour. Seal with a lid on top. Truck drivers pick up at bakeries and factories, then pull up to the loading dock at the grocery store. And then bread in the bread aisle, peanut butter stacked on the shelves, jars of jelly lined up in a row. Put in a shopping cart and pay on the way out. Carry into kitchens where sandwiches are made. PB&J, hooray! But have you ever thought, where do the bakeries and factories get the ingredients to make the food? From the farmer's fields. Flour comes from stalks of wheat that grow in long, straight rows. Peanuts grow in the soil, and grapes grow on vines. Sunshine, rain, then harvest time. Deliver crops to the bakeries that bake and factories that make. Truck drivers pick it up at the bakeries and factories, then pull it to the loading dock at the grocery store. The bread is in the bread aisle, peanut butter stacked on the shelves, jars of jelly lined up in a row. Put it in a shopping cart and pay on the way out. Carry into kitchens where sandwiches are made. PB&J, hooray! But what do farmers need to make their crops grow? They don't magically do it themselves. Farmers plant seeds in the soil so the wheat, the peanuts, and the bunches of grapes will grow. So, where do PB and J come from? Where does the bread, the peanut butter, and the jelly come from to make your sandwich? Seeds are planted, crops grow. Bakeries bake, factories make. Truck drivers pull up at bakeries and factories, then pull up to the loading dock at the grocery store. The bread is in the bread aisle, peanut butter stacked on the shelves, jars of jelly lined up in a row. Put in a shopping cart and pay on the way out. Carry into the kitchen where sandwiches are made. Peanut butter, jelly, bread. It's finally time to say, PB&J, hooray! A lot goes into making a simple peanut butter and jelly sandwich, doesn't it? I am so happy they go through all that work, because I do like a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's check out some donuts. Our next book is called Dozens of Donuts. Early one morning, as autumn leaves scatter, Luann's busy stirring a big bowl of batter. She'll eat some sweet treats. Then, warm and well fed, she'll sleep away winter, tucked tight in her bed. 1 dozen doughnuts, hot from the pan, toasty and tasty, and all for ding dong. Who could be at the door? Woodrow? Do you have enough for a neighbor to share? Sure, said Luann, and pulls up a chair. 1 dozen doughnuts, hot from the pan. Half are for Woodrow, the rest are for ding dong. Someone else is at the door. Clyde? Luann, feeling generous, offers her plateful. Doughnuts? My favorite, says Clyde. I am so grateful. You're welcome. Dig in. I will make some more, said Luann. She measures and mixes as fast as she can. 1 dozen doughnuts, hot from the pan. A few for her friends, and the rest is for ding dong. Topsy, I smelled something good. Can I come in and hang out for a while? Luann says, come on in, but now she's lost her big smile. Delicious, cries Topsy as she gulps down a swallow. Luann's heart feels warm, but her belly feels hollow. She's made all those doughnuts and she hasn't been able to eat one. 1 dozen doughnuts, hot from the pan. Some for each friend, and the rest for ding dong. Muffet? Muffet is so shy that she hides in a shrub. Luann heaves a sigh and says, come join the club. While her guests eat doughnuts, Luann starts to worry. She cracks her last egg and pours milk in a hurry. The last dozen doughnuts, hot from the pan. A pair for each friend means there's more for ding dong. Chip and Chomp? Well, it sounds like a party, and they scamper right in. They fill up their cheeks, now let winter begin, they said. Woodrow pours cider, they all raise a toast, but Luann is fed up with her job as a host. She's ready to sleep through the snow, ice, and sleet, but winter is near and there's nothing to eat. Deep in her throat there's a low, hungry grumble. It slowly grows louder, her friends hear the rumble. One look at Luann and they dash for the door. After all, she's a bear and she's ready to roar. She fusses and flails, then slowly grows still. Snowflakes drip down, all quiet until ding dong. She's getting ready for her winter nap. Peeking outside, Luann blinks in surprise. Her friends have come back and they've all bought supplies. We counted the donuts you made us, so many, and that's when we noticed you didn't get any. Topsy ties aprons, they prop Luann's feet. Chip measures, Chomp mixes, Moffat checks the heat. Dozens of donuts hot from the pan, stacked up in heaps, and they're all for Luann. But her friends have made more than enough for one bear. She has plenty to eat, and now she's happy to share. Well, wasn't that nice? They all came to eat her donuts, and then they made her own batch of donuts for all the work she did. What wonderful friends. That bear needs to eat so that she can sleep all winter long. We have another bear in this story. This bear ate your sandwich. What would you do if a bear wanted to eat your sandwich? By now, I think you know what happened to your sandwich, but you may not know how it happened. So let me tell you. It all started with the bear. The morning air was warm and bright when the bear stepped out of his den. He stretched and he sniffed. The scent of ripe berries drifted towards him and led to a wonderful discovery. After a berry fest, the bear curled up in the sunlight and listened to the buzzing of the bees. Before long, he was asleep. Oh, look at all those berries he ate. He is full. By the time the bear opened his eyes, the buzzing had become a rumbling. He was being quickly swept along like a leaf in the great river. The forest disappeared in the distance, and high cliffs rose up around him. Once the rumbling stopped, the bear found himself in a new forest. It was like nothing he's ever seen before. He's not in the forest anymore, is he? That bear is in town. The forest had many great climbing spots. The trees were still itchy here. There was good bark for scratching, and the mud squished nicely under his feet. I think that's concrete, not mud. There were many interesting smells in this forest. Some of the tastiest ones had already been found. Look at, he's meeting all kinds of people, and raccoons, and squirrels, and cats. Leafy green smells led the bear to new fun. Oh, look at that. He's at the park checking out all the fun equipment. And that is when there was your beautiful, delicious sandwich, all alone. He waited to make sure no one saw him, not even the sandwich, before he made his move. It was such a great sandwich, the bear loved it. But just as he was almost finished, he heard behind him. What's that noise? He had been seen. Oh no, look at all those puppies. The bear was so surprised that he ran out of the park down the street until he spotted a very tall tree. From the top of the tree, the bear could see his forest, and it was time to go home. The waves rocked the bear, and he began to doze off again, back to sleep. When he opened his eyes, he heard the breeze, in familiar branches, the birds, the bugs, all their evening songs. Well, the bear finally made it home, just fine. So, you see, that is what happened to your sandwich. The bear ate it. I saw it all. I tried to save your sandwich. I was able to save this little bit of lettuce right here. The bear dropped it as he ran off, but I couldn't save the rest. I'm sorry to have to tell you about your sandwich this way, but now you know. Do you really think a bear came into town and ate that little girl's sandwich? Or did that puppy eat her sandwich and tried to blame it on the bear? I'm thinking that puppy enjoyed that sandwich. Alright, our final book is Curious George and the Donut Delivery. I like donuts as a dessert after I eat my sandwich, so that's why we had to have donuts with our sandwich stories. George is always a good monkey when he's asleep, but no monkey wants to sleep through Saturday. This was a Saturday that cried out for something special. Donuts, the man with the yellow hat announced. That was special. Next to bananas, donuts were George's favorite food. How about eggs with those donuts? The man asked George. Please count how many we have and write it down. But when George looked for the eggs, he found there were none left to count. There are no eggs? The man asked. Why didn't you write 0? George didn't know why. The man with the yellow hat sat George down with some paper and a pad. See, George, the man said, 0 alone means no eggs. None. But 0 after other numbers make them mean a whole lot more. If we put a 0 after 1, it becomes 10. Write another 0, and that's 100. George stared hungrily at the zeros. They were reminding him of donuts. Luckily for George and his empty stomach, they headed out to buy the groceries. The man stopped in front of a market, and he said, I will go in here and buy eggs while you go get the donuts. Okay? George nodded as the man wrote down his order. The note said, 1 dozen donuts, please. As George headed into the donut shop, Charlie, a friendly little dog from the neighborhood, joined him. He wanted to play, but George was too busy to stop, so he followed him into the shop. George noticed that his order only had a little 1 on it. That did not seem like a lot for a monkey who was really hungry. George saw a pencil on the counter. He grabbed it and drew a 0 after the 1. Now the note read, 10 dozen donuts. Then George wrote down another 0 before Mrs. D came to take his order. George, Charlie, good to see you. Is that an order for your friend with the yellow hat? George handed over the paper. 100 dozen donuts, she exclaimed. That's her biggest order ever. Mrs. D hurried away to tell her husband in the kitchen. Soon Mrs. D started piling box after box after box on the counter. George grew worried. He hadn't realized what his zeros would do. 99, 100. You can't possibly carry them all, George, Mrs. D said. Lucky for you, we have a delivery service. Mrs. D bustled off to get some help, but George did not wait around. He grabbed 1 dozen donuts and ran away with Charlie. George was not quick enough. Mrs. D's entire family was soon right after him with their towering boxes of donuts. He must be running late. We took too long to make all the donuts, Mrs. D cried as she rushed after George. When George reached his apartment, he jumped from balcony to balcony, trying to get home as quickly as possible. At first, George thought he was safe from the donut delivery. He sat down to catch his breath after running all the way home. But it wasn't long before the doorman showed the D family right up to George's apartment. Soon, 100 boxes of donuts crowded the room. George looked around. He had to do something before his friend with the yellow hat came home. Suddenly, he had an idea. He's hiding the donuts all over the apartment. When the man with the yellow hat walked in carrying his groceries, he saw only one box of donuts sitting on the table. "Those smell so good," the man said. "I'm sorry I didn't ask you to buy more than 1 dozen." Was George able to hide all the donuts? He did, but not for long. George explained to the man that he had added some zeros to the order. "Well, at least you learned something," the man said. "But what are we going to do with all these donuts? They are everywhere." They came up with a good solution. George got 1 dozen donuts, like he was supposed to, and some hard-working firefighters got the rest. "How many left, George?" the man asked at the end of the day. George ate the last donut from a box and held up his fingers in the shape of a 0. 0 donuts left. They ate them all. Well, I really hope that George learned his lesson not to add zeros to the man with the yellow hat's order, because that is a lot of donuts. I hope you enjoyed our story time, reading about donuts and sandwiches. Probably made you hungry. I know I am. I'm going to go grab a snack, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.